You're probably questioning my sanity wearing this hat. Well, it's for good reason. The 12 Days of Christmas starts Friday. And this is wrapping up literally in a couple hours. So if you guys haven't done the Arden Saga Kickstarter yet, or checked out the game, come on now. It's made by ARG. They're starting their adventure on their own trading card game. I have a trading card coming to the game as well, as you can look forward to MCO 40. I actually am intrigued to see how that is going to go as well, but that is enough of that. So let's dig on into a little rogue discussion, shall we? So since I've lost my mind and dug out my Christmas hat, and I have to unbearably wear this whole video, we're going to have this Dragon Roller discussion. How Dragon Rollers and spellbooks, the infinite clash, changed the way that we perceive Yu-Gi-Oh! In today. Now, for those of you that watch my gadget video, was like, oh, this is the weirdest fucking topic Robbie's ever talked about. This is fucking smart. I know, right? 500 IQ plays. It's like, I actually understand something. Now, prior to Dragon Roller format, TCG and OCG were unified. We could look at the OCG, we could pull fun and facts. It was pretty straightforward. You also had different variations and decks that you could do, but leading up to Dragon Roller, power creep was really big. Obviously, wind-up hand loop, shenanigans like that. Actually, wind-ups are probably the first real build a board, scrape my opponent's resources style deck, and Zectors were on cleanup. You had a lot of things like that, and then Dragon Rollers hit, alright? Dragon Rulers are what I would consider the first time in Yu-Gi-Oh! History where we see the build-a-board mentality. You have cards like Draco Sack that now exist. You produce these tokens. You draw this immense amount of power. And on the flip side of the table, you've got spellcasters. Ah, yes, Spellbook of Judgment. Let's summon a Jaugen, disrupt you, and assemble a Spellbook army and draw this mass amount for the next turn. Both built a board. Both of them defined the genre of let's go, baby. What would lead into modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I think a lot of people don't really see this because where Dragon Rulers went and where we went after Dragon Rulers up until today's Yu-Gi-Oh! With the whole power shifting and the build-a-board. Yeah, Dragon Rulers did it. You know, in the Dragon Ruler mirror, you had Big Eye to steal your opponent's monsters. So you go, you build your board, you're like, alright, I'm going to defensively hunker down here. Your opponent goes, takes their turn. You start to see something that was like the Big Eye Wars. The Big Eye Wars were dumb, alright? But then you would have to try to disrupt your opponent's field. And then, you know, you'd have Crimson Blader come in. It was an interesting time in the game's history. But that strong, fundamental board that you would see stick on turn one was the really big thing that started to kind of push Yu-Gi-Oh! In this direction. So at this point, we've proven that the build-a-board has stuck. All right, we've also, this was interesting because this was like near the end of good cards being in archetypes. When I say that, it would be like you'd have staples paired with an archetype, and Dragon Rulers weren't really they weren't an archetype, they weren't an archetype because they would splash other things. I don't know, semantics. You had spellbooks over here, it was playing Jaugen. They were their own. The spellbooks were like the first in-house that we saw in the game that was like, we can do good archetype support. I mean, yeah, there was windups and sectors, but by modern standards, I mean, it's a big jump from point A to point B. So we start scraping around in that era. We were like, oh, we've got to go back a step. So I think we took what we learned from Dragon Roller. This is interesting to me. Because when you look at Dragon Roller and you're done with that concept, we've gotten a taste of the power. It's like, that tasted real good. And we're like, let's do this again. We start fast forwarding. Shadal, Satellar Knight, Yangzing format. The next defining stage in the game. Everything that we took out of Dragon Roller format, we scraped together into one big pile. Honestly, after Dragon Roller, Shadal, that whole chunk of a set changed the game also. I know it's not much of a Dragon Roller format discussion, but Dragon Roller really set the stage in terms of this support because they learned what you can't do. And combined with the knowledge that we got from spellbooks at this point, I honestly think it was like, all right, this is what we can do for archetypes. This is, if you give them too much, you're going to go crazy. And then, of course, we're still messing around with the pendulum archetype. You got Cleaforts that decide to walk into the building over here later on in life, and you're like, this is what not to do with the pendulum archetype, guys. Now, granted, between the scaling of power between Shadal's, Satellar Knights, and Yang Xing in that format, with Nekroz walking into the room, Cleafort further down the line, we really set the precedents based on the ever-evolving concept of, yes, generic cards seem to be bad. And then you get into just evolution. It's interesting because, I probably said that phrase like 45 times this video. Somebody's going to be like, oh, comment for every time Robbie said that in drink. So we definitely went from more generic cards, like Super Rejuvenation and things. Spellbook of Judgment was in-house for the archetype. And then you went more towards Shadal's, who, you would play good generic off monsters, like lights and things like that, to kind of spicing things up. But progressively, as the game has evolved, though, the notion of these generic S cards, we didn't learn our lesson with Engage in the current block, but I don't know. I'm under the pretense at the moment that when Dragon Rulers came out and the ceiling in the game went from here to here, there was not adequate, honestly, real testing that went into that. I can't really blame too much on either party, honestly, because the player base being the way that they are and the way that testing, I assume, goes for the cards, you can't expect everything to kind of come out in testing, and that's understandable. And then you had that. I don't know. I think up until that point, when the build-a-board concept started to rear its ugly head, and the players got that taste, everything from that point on was set in stone. You can see it in card design if you look hard enough. I think it's just been until more recent years that we've started to tone down on things. The once per turn clause is a really big one, or getting locked in to a type of something. So they've definitely learned that, one, allowing certain effects to not be once per turn is nuts. I'm glad that they've started to clean up that aspect of the game. That's good. I like that. The problem is you've still got about another 3 years of once per turn clauses over here that don't say once per turn, that we still got to clean up to get to that point that the modern day cleanup that we're doing needs to be fixed. So there's that. An unnecessary restriction of locking things like Gladiator Beast. You summon this, you're locked in Gladiator Beast for the turn, or you summon this, you're locked into Wing Beast. That is, I believe, also partly to do with the years of experience with generic cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game where generic cards honestly ruin the game. All of these generic Link monsters, Boral Sword Dragon, the OTK generator himself, these super easy to acquire cards that any deck can make, any deck has access to. They're trying to allow them in the game in certain things, and that's honestly why you see these more generic-ass decks. Oh, I don't get punished for doing this. Or in the case of Orchest, where they would lock you into Dark, it doesn't really bother you all that much because you just do everything prior to that point, and then you go down that point. You're like, oh, rewarded. Doesn't even matter. I did my combo. I was able to do everything that I wanted to do. Restrictions. Ha, I welcome you. Could you imagine if the Dragon Rulers had a restriction on them? Something along the lines of, after summoning this, you can only summon for the attribute of the Dragon Ruler. Or, even crazier, what if we said you can only summon dragons for the rest of the turn? I don't know. It's from an era that cards don't seem like they were particularly tested well. It seems like, I don't know, I don't think R&D did a real spunky job at that point. Maybe it's just we just decided to go, but fuck it, and see the crazy results that we could get. But I don't know. We've definitely taken what we've learned from that era in the game to the current era. Oh, absolutely, things are getting a whole lot better. Once return clauses, restrictions. I wish they wouldn't restrict certain archetypes. Like, let Ojamas be able to do whatever they want if you put a restriction on them. Come on. They don't deserve that. They're tier 5. Come on. But that is a discussion for another day. So, I do put a lot of the game's problems on Dragon Roller and Spellbooks because, honestly, that was one of the craziest times in the game's history, and it was very clear that card design just whoopity-doody-doo-doo-doo. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. And guys, I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace out. The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a truffle shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out Vanquil40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.